right, I think that it is preparing to go live. I think people can see us right now. So smile real big. Don't make any gestures or any crazy thing like that because they will see it. So I'm going to do this. Race combo with my family. Boom. Hello, everyone. Already had the handle.
What's going on?
Good evening.
Oh, what's up?
Hey, let me. All right, guys. Hey, so welcome to my Facebook Live. My name is Alex Bryant, Pastor Alex. I'm here with my family. What's up, fellas? Say hi.
What's going on?
Hello, everyone.
I'm excited about this conversation. My technical crew, which consists of my wife Angela, she's over on the side computer making sure that we are live. She's going to give me the word when people can see this. You may be a little bit behind, but we're here. But this is the deal. I'm here with my cousins. I'm going to introduce them to you in just a moment here. But again, I just want to make sure that we are. It says that it's getting ready to go up, and so yeah. So we're kind of making sure. I've done a couple of these Zoom calls on Facebook, and I'm just now starting to learn what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And so it says it's prepping on my computer. So as you all are joining us on this Facebook Live, you probably see some familiar faces. Give some shout outs. I want to first give a shout out to our family member, Delissa. How many of you jokers knew it was her birthday today?
Yep.
Yeah. See, gosh, that's just wrong.
She's not on
Happy
Facebook
birthday.
anyway, though, is she?
No, she's not on Facebook. So you can
Happy birthday if we wanted to.
she's not on Facebook. So
Happy birthday, Delissa.
so we're not going to be in too much trouble with it. But that is the deal there. So it's telling me that it is preparing. I'm going to keep on moving. I think sometimes Facebook goes a little bit slow, but it will be coming up here in just a second. The purpose for this Zoom call, I wanted the world to have a front row view in conversations that my family has. We've been doing these for, I don't know, about 4 years now. It really kind of started with the start of the last election season. We had a little text message thread and we dialogue, we converse, we bounce things off each other. We argue, we disagree, we challenge each other. And so that's kind of what I wanted the world to have a bird's eye view of that. I've been doing these Zoom calls now with for the last week in the wake of George Floyd, and we're going to get to that. And that's the why, but this is the group. So I'm going to introduce them to you, maybe give them a chance to address you. I'm still kind of going a little bit slow, waiting for Facebook to ensure that we are live. Again, I'm showing it on my computer that we are, but sometimes it takes a little bit of time here for a second. It says public. Let me just make sure. Okay. Let me just see right here. It's showing that we are. So, okay. I think sometimes it just may take a moment to go. You can have my phone.
Yeah, it says up in the corner it's streaming on Facebook, live on Facebook right now.
Angie's kind of looking, trying to make sure. It says we're live on Facebook right now. Meeting is now streaming live, Ange. So.
There we go.
So anyway, my name is Pastor Alex again, in case we were a little bit delayed on that. I'm streaming here live. We got a real conversation on race with my cousins, my family, and my son, Trey. And I'm going to introduce them to you. This is something that I've been doing in response to the George Floyd death. So I'm going to start, and I'll start with my cousin, Cedric. He is he's the patriarch of our family, one of the old guys right now. He is my cousin, Cedric Gibson. And he's senior level at college administrator at a university in Jackson County, Florida. So, Ced, you want to greet the peeps?
Well, I just want to say good evening, and I look forward to engaging in conversation with each of these gentlemen because we've in the past had some lively ones. So I think tonight will not disappoint. So good evening.
I'll tell you a couple other things about my cousin Cedric. He served his country. He's military. He's also a doctor, Dr. Gibson. That will be the only time that I address you as such, but I do want to give
I know. That's why I didn't even ask for you to say it, buddy. But I do appreciate it.
His students, it's kind of funny when we're walking around campus with him, like Dr. Gibson. I'm like, who they talking to? But this is Stan. And then I'm going to introduce my cousin Guy. He is in Florida, or he's in Illinois, actually, not in Florida. He's in Illinois. He has been in law enforcement for 20 years. He also served our country. Guy is a police officer in Illinois. He's also a corporal and night shift supervisor. He's wearing the ugly Steelers shirt. So, Guy, what's up?
Hello, everyone. I'm going to be the police officer here. I'll do my best to not take everything as a police officer would. I mean, it's just friends and family here. And I'm going to give, hopefully, some knowledge that you didn't have when all this is over.
Right.
And that's really one of the main reasons I wanted to do this, is to impart some knowledge to my brown brothers and sisters out there. And, you know, you don't have to be brown, but it's just, I feel like there's knowledge that people don't have that if they just had that little bit of knowledge, could stop them from getting hemmed up when they didn't have to be.
All right.
So take it away, Alex.
Solid, solid. I'm going to introduce my other cousin, Ralph. He is an entrepreneur and just all around great dude down in Atlanta, Georgia. And man, he's been, he's younger cousin, not as good looking. So it's Cedric's older, me, and then Ralph for the dudes on our side of the family. So Ralph, what do you want to say to the folks?
I'm ready for the dialogue, and you know, just gonna do this business as usual. Business as usual for us.
For you guys that don't know, that means he's gonna blow it up in here. I'm gonna introduce my cousin Josh. He is he's our second cousin. It's Cedric's nephew. My mom's name is Barbara, and she has a niece named Dawn, and that is his mom. But he's a firefighter and paramedic in St. Louis County, Florida. What's up, Josh? He's representing the younger folk over here, 30-somethings.
All right. How y'all doing? Just a pleasure to be on here to talk about the issues at hand and just have a good time and just you know, reflect knowledge off each other. So I'm ready to go.
Good deal. And then the young, really good-looking brother with a lot of hair, which, hey, shows that I could have a lot of hair if I wanted to. That's my son, Trey. He is a
On
freshman.
the sides.
Yeah.
Well. I will delete you out of here. But my son, Trey, he's finished up his freshman year at Mizzou, and he's studying political science. One of these days, he has aspirations to be a senator, and so he's going to help legislate this country, man, and bring laws that are fair and everything. So, Trey, you want to say what's up?
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, I'm going to be a sophomore at Mizzou in the fall. I'm just a young guy, hoping to be a part of this, hoping to make a change in the world one of these days, and just here to learn and to analyze what's going on right now.
Cool deal. So I started this when I saw the George Floyd death, and by now everybody's seen what was going on. George Floyd was, I just say it, murdered right before our eyes last Monday, a week ago Monday, by police officer Derek Chauvin. He was picked up for counterfeit $20 bill and detained, and big stories about, he was resisting arrest and this or that, whatever. But I mean, we saw the video. I before I even saw it, I received, I think 4, maybe 5 texts and calls. Have you seen this? Have you seen this? And I hadn't. We're in the middle of moving, and when my phone was blowing up, I was like, I don't want to right now, because I immediately thought, here we go again, another one. They've done it again, and I had stuff to do, and I didn't want to get in a negative headspace, and so it was probably late afternoon when I finally got around to watching it, and man, you know, I've shared with people before what I felt and everything, but I want to give you guys a chance. You know, Ced, when you saw the video, you know, what were you thinking? What was your thoughts? You know, talk to us.
Yeah, I don't know. It really surprised me of how bold the officer was. He knew he was being recorded, his hands in his pocket, and then to understand that he had his knee against the gentleman's neck for 7, 8, 9 minutes. You keep hearing the time elapse change depending on who's telling the story, but nonetheless, it was for a long period of time. And then further to learn that there were 2 additional officers that we could not see. And for me, it's about a story that's been concerning us as people of color for generations, for centuries. And everything that we're seeing now is just pent up frustration because he's not the first, he's not the second, he's not the 100th. It's been something that we know and we fear as Black men, as parents, when our sons or relatives are out and they could possibly interact with the law enforcement officer that could be their situation. And I always tell my son, hey, try to make it home. If you are stopped, your game plan is to make it home safely. And then if there was some wrongdoing, then we'll deal with it. But in that case, just as you said earlier, it was a $20 bill that was counterfeit. I would think probably, and I asked this to the gentleman here, I've had a counterfeit bill before and I didn't know it. And it could have been me. And it wasn't because it was something that I did or I was trying to even pass it off, but I think we've all had a counterfeit bill at some point, so it could have been us. So that's where I was, Alex, just really taken aback because it was such a small gesture that escalated into something that caused him to lose his life.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Hey, I just like something real quick, and it's not a critique or anything. I thought he had his hand in his pocket also. He's got gloves on, and his gloves are the same color as his pants. Mm-hmm. When it looks like his hand's in his pocket, he's got a gloved hand on. So, because when I very first saw the video, I thought his hand was in his pocket also, because if his hand was in his pocket, how's your body? How are you holding yourself up? Where's your body weight at? If your hand's in your pocket, then all your weight would be on your knee. You know, and that makes it even more heinous of what happened if that was the case. But I watched it and I couldn't watch it too many times, just to be honest with you. I really couldn't. But his hand, he had gloves on, and his gloves are just the same color as his pants.
Yeah. So, guy, to that point, is his hands on his thigh, correct? If that's,
I think so.
They were. I watched it 8 times. That's where they were. They were on his thigh. And but let me say this: it's even almost worse, isn't it? Because I mean, you're
right,
like almost pushing down, and with this glaring around, like I own you. I've dominated you. What you gonna do, boy? That's how I feel.
Right. It took me back a couple of 100 years just for photos that I've seen. It reminded me of when they used to lynch individuals and then stand next to them for a photo op. It was just that emboldened look like it was okay. Yeah. Whether his hand was in his pocket, and I appreciate that piece of the correction, but whether it was his pocket and I just put my hand in my pocket versus being on my thigh, and it's probably about the same amount of weight, to Alex's point.
Oh no, you guys 100% agree.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the devil's in the detail, but you know, it's still kind of heavy along that line. But
yeah. So Ralph, I want to ask you, man, we're a week out, and people talk about the stages of grief, how, you know, first anger and, you know, denial, and, you know, you get to the point where it's acceptance. I mean, where are you at? Have you moved along? I mean, what are you feeling now, a week and 2 days out?
I feel the same way I felt when I saw it. We're in a society, for me, where if you watch something like that, it's almost like we're immune to it. We built up a tolerance to watch stuff like this. There are plenty of channels on YouTube where you can go and see police interactions on their body cams, and the police officers shooting suspects that, you know, somebody might do something and then they'll shoot them, and there are plenty of channels out there like that. So for me, when I saw it, I ain't gonna lie, I wasn't really shocked, and I didn't really have an emotion like an outrage or anything. I guess I was taken back, like nobody's gonna do anything. That's the only thing I was shocked about. Like, at what point do you intervene and say, hey, look, you're killing the man? Like, if I gotta go to jail with him, I'm gonna go to jail with him. Or, just standing by talking and saying bro 100 times, it doesn't really do anything. It doesn't do anything to diffuse the situation, actually aggravating the situation. Hey man, you're killing a man, take your knee off of him. And if they don't, are you gonna put yourself in harm's way to intervene to get the man's knee off of the other man's neck? That's where I was at on it. So, I mean, as far as grieving, I'm not grieving about it, no.
So let me ask you this before we can go. Like, how many of you guys were surprised when you saw it? Anybody?
I was.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say I was surprised, but not to the extent of it couldn't happen, because I do see it from a different perspective. I do see it from the lens of being on the law side, far as fire, police, or whatever.
Did we lose you?
Am I freezing up? Or is that him?
It's dead. All right, we back?
Yeah.
All right. So it's definitely rough, because it happens all the time, man. It happens all the time. And to go what Ralph was saying about the escalation of the situation, you saying bro is not going to do anything. And for me, being on calls, whether it's trauma calls, gunshot calls, stabbings, or arrests, one thing I know that aggravates the situation, because it aggravates me, is people standing around with their cell phones. And by you standing around with your cell phone recording what's going on, I understand you want to make sure this person is being treated right, but you standing there recording what's going on, automatically that person who's on that call wants you to get that camera out their face. And by you having your camera in their face, and you want to get everything just so you can put it on social media, that's not helping the situation at all.
You know what I noticed is, it seemed like to me that at one point after Mr. Floyd went unresponsive and the people's cries were like, hey, he's not breathing, it seemed like the officer was leaning on even more. That's just what it appeared like to me. Like he's digging in even more, like, as the crowd was saying stuff. And then you had the one Asian officer taunting the crowd. This is what happens when you do drugs. Don't do drugs, kids. That's
He didn't say that.
jacked
He didn't
up.
say that. Yeah.
Yes, he did. And Alex, just to even join in and answer your last question, for me, I wasn't shocked, but I was actually shocked in this perspective of his level of boldness, that officer. The officer that had his knee to his neck. There was no level of responsiveness to the outcry of the victim. And then his brothers in arms that were around him, the fellow officers that were there, when you have that suspect on the ground and it looked like they had him at least in cuffs, and Guy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because you may have seen things that I had not, because I watched it once. I did not go over it and try to comb through, but just the level of not responding or caring for that individual as if he was a human shocked me.
Yeah.
And as Ralph was stating earlier, yeah, we've seen this. Sometimes we even become somewhat numb to it, but there are certain levels of an outcry that you expect for somebody to say, hey, man, we probably need to push ourselves back. It wasn't a person that was shooting at the officers. Like this guy had maybe an automatic weapon and he was trying to kill them. And then you apprehended them. I can understand there being some anger and heightened energy there. So I could have understood that. But for a gentleman that never took it to that place within that entire event, I don't understand how you just went from calm to calm to calm to someone stating, my life is in danger, I can't breathe. And you're like, who cares? You can't breathe.
Yeah. I want to say this too, because Guy, I want you to jump in, but let me just say, I've asked Guy, my cousin, to be here to talk with family. And so he's not representing you know, all the perspective of all police. I just want to throw that disclaimer out for you. We've talked about this. I know that you are not happy. You've told me some of your own personal views, but I just want people to know that you're not representing the view of police overall. I had a panel earlier in the week where I had one with police where we talked about it, but Guy, talk to us on a personal level.
Okay. Well, real quick. So when you're effecting an arrest on someone, if a person's fighting with you or whatever, you have responsibilities. Like, so there's a guy that has the legs. There's a guy that has the hands. Your responsibility is you've got the legs. Hey, you've got the hands. The guy that's in the video, he's got the person. He's the guy that's supposed to be engaging with the guy, with Mr. Floyd. He's supposed to be checking on him. Hey, listen, we got to do this. We're going to get you in the, he, correct me if I'm wrong. Did he ever talk to him? Did he ever talk to Mr. Floyd during that entire encounter?
I didn't see it.
Well, I saw a video where they showed the not the dash cam, but the body cam that happened outside of the store when they first got pulled over. And from that video, everything looked, I guess, rather calm to a degree. They went in, they pulled him out of the car, and then it ends with him walking across the street to in front of the store. And it didn't look like it was a problem from that point. So whatever happened between then, from that video to the actual video of him getting killed, I don't know if anybody's released that video. So I can't say it. I'm not going to speculate.
We've got a video of Mr. Floyd laying prone out on the ground.
Exactly.
For a long time. I mean, there's no other way to put it. A long time. And during that entire encounter, no one talks to Mr. Floyd.
Right.
No one engages with him. And even if you're upset with him, even if you're that cop that feels like, this guy's getting what he deserves, at least if you're engaging with him and talking to him, you can verify that he can breathe. Yeah. Him squirming and everything, and then you wrenching down more and more. It's kind of like, and I was explaining this to my wife last night. I was explaining to her how a boa constrictor kills its prey. It'll grab its prey and it'll squeeze. And it doesn't just squeeze. Every time you take a breath and exhale, every time you breathe in, it squeezes harder. So when you try to get air in, there's less air to get in. And that's basically what happened to Mr. Floyd.
Yeah.
As they're pushing down on him, every breath he takes is getting closer and closer to his last breath, because he's never going to get as much in as the last breath he just took.
It's crazy.
And it's basically how a boa constrictor kills its prey. And that's what I've likened this to, is that the life and breath was, if that's even a word, out of him.
Yeah.
And anybody who watches this video, whether any walk of life, no matter what color skin you have, knows everything in this video was wrong.
It's a
I challenge anybody to show me one positive thing that happened with this video. And I did watch it enough that, and then when I was researching a little bit of it, and if people didn't know, this is going to break people's hearts even more. That puddle of liquid that you see coming from underneath that police cruiser was Mr. Floyd's bladder releasing. So I don't know if people saw that, but that puddle that was coming from underneath that vehicle was Mr. Floyd peeing on himself.
And let me tell you this, another one. He's yelling, "Mama, mama." His mom had been dead for 2 years. I mean, how, to get a grown man to the point to where he's screaming and crying for his mom, that's demoralizing. I want to ask you this, Trey. I want to get you into this because you're the younger generation. I know we talk together, and you don't represent all young people, but you saw we lived in St. Louis during the Mike Brown deal, and you saw that police brutality, and your generation has seen multiple of these police shootings and stuff. And then you see this. Tell us what you're thinking, and then talk to us about trust. Where's your trust level for the police, and does your young friends trust the police?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like I have, I see it from two different sides. I have friends that are out here at 30 minutes outside of the city, and then I have friends that are in the city, like living in neighborhoods where everything is beat up and where everything is, it's tough for them. They have to go walk everywhere, and they're struggling and hiding from the police most of the time. But just that being said, though, is I've seen both people. I've seen people where they do trust the police with their life, and if anything was to go wrong, they would call the police. And I see people that kind of go and if the police were to come, they would be in fear of their lives being taken from them. And so it's kind of hard finding the balance and finding in between that of where my trust does lie. But I mean, also it goes to show that just the privilege that comes with people that don't see, not necessarily that don't see the police as a threat, but the privilege that comes with people only seeing the police as someone that's there to protect them, and they don't even see how some people are scared, is definitely it's a scary thing for me, at least. Just seeing how there's such a big discrepancy between, the majority of them being white and then being black. The discrepancy between that is a huge, scary thing for me.
Fair enough. Enough. So
let me say this, man. I think the fear that people have of the police is not knowing how to handle a situation when you get involved with the police. Me and Cedric had a conversation the other day. I likened it to being a prisoner of war. When you get trapped behind enemy lines and you're having to deal with the enemy or the opposition, you only give your name, your rank, and your serial number. Yeah. So I would suggest that anybody who got into a situation or altercation with the police or whatever, get quiet. You give them your name, your address, and maybe your driver's license number or your ID number if you have it, and then let the problem be sorted out through the court system. And like Cedric say, everybody, the main goal is to make it home. It's not to have court on the side of the road. It's not to argue the cop down. Like I also said this to Cedric. Us as a people, as black people, we think talking stuff to the police is a form of self-defense or a form of getting back at them. Oh, I cussed him out real good. Man, I gave that police a good tongue lashing. But yeah, at the end of the day, you went to jail. You got a charge, and now you're gonna have to hire a lawyer to figure this thing out. When, hey, you tell them what your name is, they identify you. If you're being accused of a crime, if you gotta go to jail, you go to jail. If not, after they check out your ID, find out you're not the person that they're looking for, you going about your business. I think a lot of black people feel and think that we have the same preconceived notion that a white person has when we get stopped by the cop. I mean, if we really want to be honest about it, our skin is a threat in itself. So whenever you stop a black dude, you see a black dude walking down the street, it's just like with the guy, I don't remember his name, but the guy who got just killed in Brunswick up here. You know, they saw him walking through the neighborhood. They saw him walking through the neighborhood, and I got to figure out what he's doing. He was walking through this house. But if a white guy was walking through the house, it wouldn't have been the same reaction. That guy's got to be up to something. So we have to understand that and not say it's not fair, because life isn't about being fair. To me, it's about I got to maximize my chances for success. And if that is when a police approaches me, hey, what's your name? All right, I'll identify myself. Cool, I'm Ralph Edwards. I live at XYZ, and my ID number is this. If you're gonna lock me up, you're gonna lock me up. There's nothing I'm gonna say that's not gonna get me that ride downtown. When I get down there, I could definitely bond out. I got enough money to bond out. I got people to come get me. But I think black people, we're so caught up in this fair thing. Oh man, we want this to be, well, you don't treat him like that, or this isn't fair. Life isn't fair.
Yeah, but Ralph, I mean, that's like jacked up though. What I'm hearing you say is, hey, it ain't fair. You just keep your mouth quiet. Just give them the bare facts. Whereas white people, and I got plenty of white friends who get pulled over, get arrested, and they talk their way out of a ticket. So you're just saying, don't try that.
But it's not the same. That's like, to me, that's comparing apples to oranges. you can't compare. I can't compare myself to what privileges a white person has. I can't do that, and I don't do it. What I do is I compare myself with the situation that I'm in. That's just like me saying, hey man, you got the job because you're a college graduate. I only finished high school. That ain't fair. I got just as much experience as you, but you got a college education. How did you get picked for the job? Well, I went to college and I got the job. I'm not gonna get mad at that. I mean, I understand that it's just what it is, man. The object isn't to be fair. The object is to live and get to the next day.
Okay,
That's what it's about for me.
I want to stay here.
Alex, I want to speak on what Ralph said earlier.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so Ralph, I need to take you with me so you can explain this to people. When the police are wanting to talk to someone, okay, there's different ways on how we go about it, okay? If Trey, I'm gonna use you for example. If I walk up to you and I'm in full uniform and I say, "Excuse me, sir, do you mind if I speak to you for a minute?"
Yes, sir.
What do you feel like you have the right to leave?
No.
Why not?
I mean, if the police officer was addressing me, I wouldn't feel like that would be the right situation. I wouldn't want to place myself in any situation where I could be accused of anything illegal even.
Okay, but did I not ask you? I asked you a question, right?
Yeah.
Hey, sir, do you have a minute to talk to me?
Yeah, yes, sir.
What if you don't have a minute to talk to me? So what can you say to me?
I mean, I could say that I'm busy. I have to get to class or whatever it may be. I have to somewhere to be.
People don't
Okay.
think the police.
So now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
same situation. Same situation. You in the red shirt with curly hair and glasses. Stop. I need to talk to you. Now, do you feel like you can leave?
No.
Okay. So here's what the issue is. Police have contacts where I talk to you like I did the second time. People think they have the right. I know my rights. I don't have to talk to you. If I ask you the first way, absolutely. If I ask you the second way, which isn't really asking you,
Telling you.
sir, am I being detained? Yes, you fit the description of someone in the area. And is that a generic term we use? Absolutely. But basically, I just want you to identify yourself. Okay. And that's what Ralph was talking about is I wish people were upfront about wanting to identify themselves. I can tell you in the time that I've been a police officer, the number is in the hundreds that if a person just would have given me their name and information, they would have never gotten arrested. And here's the thing about that. If you choose that you feel like you know your rights and you don't have to give me your information, here's what happens. You're arrested. You go to jail.
Why?
You
Because police. But why?
until
But why? Because police have
I'm
that
gonna-
attitude.
I'm going to explain it to you. I swear to God, I'm going to explain it to you. If I say, I need to know who you are, I know my rights, I don't have to tell you who I am. Listen, you fit the description of the person we're looking for. I need to make sure you're not the person we're looking for. I need your identification. I don't have to tell you anything, officer. I know my rights. I'm not giving you my name. I'm not giving you my number. I'm not giving you anything. You're getting arrested. You're getting arrested. And guess what? You're going to jail, and you will sit in that jail until you decide to tell them who you are. Guess what? You could have not went to jail by telling me who you are, and I can verify you're not the person I'm looking for, and I'm off to the next person, and you're going to wherever you were going. But
Got it.
because, go ahead, I'm
Got
listening.
That's part of the implicit bias that just ticks Black people off. Like you don't see them saying, "Hey, Miss middle-aged white woman, you fit the description." Man, please. And so as men, we're walking around demoralized all the time because we fit the description. And so I get where Ralph is coming from, and you guys know
You're
me.
behind enemy lines, man. I mean, you're behind enemy lines. It's not fair. This isn't about being fair. It's about getting home alive. I don't want to get home dead. I want to get home alive. Whatever you need, brother. Hey, what you want to know who I am? I'm Ralph Edwards, XYZ. Hey, I'm the guy. Take me down. I'd rather bond out than have you guys plan my funeral. That's what I would rather do. Whether it's fair or not, I'm not gonna do it. I got more money to bond out than I got to be dead. I don't want to. I'm living. I choose living over it. And whether it's fair or not, hey man, it is what it is.
This is what I want to say. I want people that are watching this to hear that. I mean, you have, educated professional Black men that are saying my goal is to make it home, have my kid make it home. I mean, that's part of the systemic problem that we have in America. I mean,
hands. Who in this dais here has ever woken up any day of their life and looked in the mirror and said, you know what, today's going to be a fair day. I'm going to get treated fairly everywhere I go. Ralph, hey, I'm coming to see you in Atlanta one of these days, man.
Please do. Because, I mean, I'm serious, man. It's not a fair game. It's not. So either you learn to play with the cards that you're dealt, or, I mean, it could happen to you. I'm not having court on the side of the road with a cop. I'm not doing that. And I mean, I have a militant bone, if you want to call it that, in my body, where, hey, I want to get my point across, but there's a time and place for everything. If I feel that I've been wronged, all right, Mr. Officer, you disrespecting me. Now ain't the place to handle it. I'm gonna go down to internal affairs. I'll file my grievance. They'll follow up with me. Then I go through the court systems if that's my choice. But me arguing and cussing with you on the side of the road isn't gonna do anything for either one of us, especially me, because you got the badge, you got the gun, you got the authority. I'm gonna lose. You got a radio.
You get the last word no matter what, and it's unfortunate that sometimes they're in the wrong.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
Yeah.
We're gonna get the last word no matter. So like
disorderly conduct.
A lot of us are parents. Your kid thinks they're getting out of the room saying I'm gonna get the last word. You ain't never gonna win because I pay for all the food, I pay for the water. You're never gonna get the last word, and that's what it's gonna be like with the police. You'll never get the last word.
You got to recognize the authority, man. It's like he said with the parents and the kids. You just have to recognize the authority and just use your brain, because most people use their mouth before they use their brain. If you just think about the situation, think about that. This guy has the gun. He has the badge. If he asks you for your ID, give him an ID. If he asks you to sit down and shut up, sit down and shut up. If he asks you to get back in your car, get back in your car. But our problem is we have our rights. We have our rights. I have my right to say whatever I want to say to the police officer because I don't like what the other police officer did to this guy in another situation at the time. So it's if we just learn to sit down and just be quiet and just ask and do whatever the cop says do, a lot of this stuff will be ironed out.
Right. And not even to that though, Josh. Like just do what he says do. I mean, I'm proactive with it. The cop, I get pulled over. First thing I do, I pull out my license. I hand it out the window. I got my license out the window. He comes and gets. You know why I pulled you over? No, sir, but I know you're gonna tell me. Yeah. You'll tell me what he pulled me over for. Well, is there a reason why you're driving so fast? Sir, if I'm gonna get a ticket, please give me the ticket. I don't want to have court on the side of the road. If I got a grievance, I'm gonna take it up with the judge. I'm not doing it. I understand it. I understand that it's a stressful job. Trust me. Just dealing with, man, I sell clothes for a living. And dealing with people and selling clothes, if it's 25% of what a police officer takes, I understand why situations get escalated so quickly. You know, you don't know what you're going into. Because like I said, I watch those videos on YouTube and it'll be a domestic violence call. And the guy comes to the door. He's Brandon Rape. Oh, I'm not going out here. And then he makes a move and he pulls out a knife and the cops shoot him. And it's like, yo, look how fast that turned into something bad. I'm not trying to be a statistic, man.
Ralph,
can I give you guys some backstory on the knives versus guns? Like I said, I'm kind of here to educate people a little bit.
You ain't our dad, brother. Listen to him, Mr. Pop.
Listen.
Like,
Hey, I'm gonna hit that button. Cedric told me what button I can hit. I'll
That's
hit it.
funny.
Bottom right.
So here's the thing about guns and knives, okay? And it's something that we're trained on. If I'm standing 20 feet away from a person with a knife, okay? That person can close the distance in that 20 feet faster than I can draw my gun out and shoot them. We train on it, and every academy talks about it and trains on it. So that is why when cops see knives, people get shot so often, because that the closer you are, the less that time you have to react is. It's action versus reaction. And it's something that's trained in police all the time. You can't react as fast as someone's action. You've seen like where people drop the dollar and then you got to catch it before it hits the table or whatever. That's action reaction. You can't react quicker than they have acted. So that's where that comes in, where a lot of people get shot because they have a knife, because they can close the distance much quicker than the officer can get their gun out and defend themselves.
yeah. Well, let me ask you guys this. So I want to camp out here for a second with what Ralph is saying, because I'm hearing you say, that's just the way it is. Just take it. I mean, now let's play that out. So how does that make you feel towards one of your white?
That's not exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying in that particular, you have to know when. Kenny Rogers, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run.
Well, but let me say this.
You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. It'll be time enough for counting when the deal is done. Hopefully you won't get no copyright slap for that. But my thing is I'm not going to sit here and have court with you on the side of the road if I'm not going to lose. That's the way it is. I want to put myself in a position where I'm going to win. And I got a better chance of winning in a courtroom than I do on the side of the street.
You said it 3 times, brother. I heard you, but now let me just play this out.
Yeah.
So let's just say that's where you're at. Live the fight another day. And you're just saying that's just is what it is for us black people. And so how does that play out towards white people? How does that make you feel about the 40-year-old white dude that doesn't have the same hindrance or situation that you do?
I know where I'm at, Alex. I know where I'm at. I'm behind, and I'm not saying white people are my enemy, but I use it as an analogy. I'm behind enemy lines. I know what the perception of who I am is. I understand how I got there. I'm totally pragmatic. I get it. You see a black guy, you're scared because of what you've been fed. Most of the time when people meet me, first thing they say is, or if I have a conversation with them, "Oh, you're different. You're different." I don't know what that means by I'm different, but obviously you had a perception of who I was prior to you and I talking. So I understand that. And all I'm saying is I operate within the parameters of what I understand. Whether I accept it or not doesn't make the situation change. Yeah. I don't like it. If a white guy goes up into a store and he asks for cheese on his Whopper and they say, "Hey man, you ain't got to pay for it." And I go up there and I say, "Yo, I want cheese on my Whopper too. You got to pay for it." I'm not been out of shape about it. Hey man, it's just the way it is. I don't.
What it is. I
don't view my life like that anymore. I used to be the guy that be all outraged. "Oh, you did it for him. You did it to the white man. You didn't do it for me." It's like, to me, that's time wasting tactics. If we want to change things, then we have to come up with a strategy, a plan of what it is we want, how we want it, how we plan to get it if we don't get it this way, and go from there. But sitting around, me sitting up here mad because a white guy did something and he didn't get the same treatment as I got, I already know that. That's been the history of this country since the inception. When the founding fathers came over here. What did it say? We're 3/5 of a man in the Constitution? You know what it was they told you what it was from the beginning.
Let me do this, Cedric. I want to ask you this. You know, you're a professional man. You've been in a professional setting in the higher education, and most of the time we look at higher education as being a little bit more progressive and stuff. But when you're thinking about some of what you've had to encounter, and you know, issues like, how do you see bias towards, you know, Black men, Black people play out in your professional field?
Well, I think that when it comes to anything that we do as a people, we look for diversity because we want to embrace it. But diversity within itself brings different perspectives to a conversation, but it also brings about challenges as well. And in my profession, since we work with the general public, we need those different voices at the table. I think and this is probably going a little off base, but you'll see how it relates. And Ralph and I were talking about this in a latter conversation, where when you start to engage people and you want that diversity, you need that because, for example, COVID-19, and you have leaders. I don't care whether they're Black or white. Let's just say you have an individual that's now a sitting senator, or they may be a CEO of a nonprofit, and they have not been poor for a long time. And you're trying to make sure that you have the appropriate testing set up for everyone. And I was thinking about this myself, where when you're thinking about just the drive up and drive through testing centers, guess who you forgot? You forgot all the people that don't have a car. And the people that don't have a car, we forgot to take it to them. Did I forget about them on purpose? Now, I'm Black. It has nothing to do with color, nothing to do with anything of that nature. But I'm a Black man sitting there, but I have not been poor for a long time, or I've not ever been that poor where we didn't have a car. So that approach made sense to me. Yeah. But I forgot about a group of people. And that's what the conversation does at my level. When we start to talk about things, you embrace those diversities. For a male of color, you do look around sometime and you're wanting to see more individuals like yourself at the table, because just even being a Black male, I sometimes get chosen to sit at the table, but I can't speak for every Black male. I've never had to sell drugs. I've never missed a meal. Yeah, I was raised by a single parent, but that was by choice. My mom divorced and did not want to marry again because she had 3 girls and didn't really trust any male around them outside of their father. So, you know, those were conversations that we had. So a lot of things were a choice, but I can't speak for every male within me just being that single Black person sitting at the table. So anytime I've been involved in a group, I try to make sure that we as a society don't paint, whether it's a white person, a Black person, Latino, whomever it is, do not paint that entire race with a single brush and think we all look alike, think alike, or had the same situation. I hope that established some points around your question, Alex, because I know I took it off a little bit, but you know, when it's really talking about diversity and what we do at a college level and a post-secondary level, it is to be, especially community college where I am, we are the community's college. So we do see a large influx of those that cannot afford it, that can't go to a university like Trey and like our children or even mine, where I had an opportunity to go to UF and go off to college and things of that nature. That's not a realization for everyone. So our perspectives can sometimes be skewed and different. And I try to go, even like Guy was saying, he can't speak for every policeman. I can't speak for every Black person. But yeah, you do have those moments where you want to see more of it, But I will tell you there are certain things I understand because I do look at sociology and it explains a lot. And I'll tell you the last point, and I'll pause there, is like Ralph's Tactic, one of my favorite books, The Art of War by Sun Tzu, and the various tactics that he discussed, even though they're military related, but never attack an enemy that has the high ground. And it goes back to what Ralph is saying, and not that he said it, but that particular law enforcement officer has a high ground. They're the authority. So why go and attack when you have a less than whatever percentage chance of being successful? And I don't think that has much to do with color or it other than it has to do with you being smart enough to realize that.
You know, that you said a lot, and I'm going to say this too. I know you dropped UF just to assert your dominance over MIZ-ZOU. Sorry, Trey, but you know, I think it's. I want people that are listening just to understand and hear this. I mean, it breaks my heart that my cousins, my family, and I know you know this, that we're looking at race relations like, man, you've said a couple times we're behind enemy lines. I mean, you know, that's a tough one because. And I know that everybody on this panel, none of us dislike white people or whatever, but that implies a level of guardedness. And you know, that breaks my heart. I mean, speak to that. I mean, do you guys catch what I'm saying on that or no?
Well, Alex, I want to say as a corrective piece, for me, I know Ralph said we're behind enemy lines. I was using Sun Tzu as a tactic. I don't feel as though I'm behind enemy lines. I have great respect for some of my best buddies, and I hate using this analogy because it makes it sound all kind of crazy. Like, well, I have a lot of friends that
Hey, my best friend is white.
No, one gentleman, Kevin Kojin, and we both shared space a long time ago at Indian River State College. If he ever sees this, I mean, that's my buddy. I mean, and I trust this guy with anything. And he's not a black male. I don't feel as though I'm behind enemy lines. When there are certain things that go wrong at my house, I don't have a fear in picking up the phone and dialing 911 because I feel as though I know how to interact. And they've been in my house when my mom passed, when all of this, I know how to interact with people. So I don't feel afraid calling the police. I don't feel afraid when they pull me over because I know sometimes I like to drive faster than the speed limit. So when you pull me over, I'm not afraid, but I try not to do anything to make myself look like they should be afraid of me.
Do you try to talk your way out of a ticket, brother?
I will tell you, if I do the opposite of Ralph. I will engage in conversation. No, it's not. I know when it's gotten to a point where I probably need to be like, well, okay, I'm not going to win this one, but you know, why are you driving, you know, fast? Well, I'm trying to get to an appointment. You know, I think cops in some way and highway patrolmen, they kind of know whether they're going to write you a ticket or not. Probably even before they walk up to the car, depending on how they're feeling, the type of day that they're having. I don't think it always has something to do with color because I'm not the one that's going to cry racism unless it is. I want to make sure that everyone understands I'm definitely not stating that I feel like I'm behind enemy lines. I go to work every day surrounded by people, a diverse group of people that I have very much respect for, and I work with them. We break bread together, which is sacred to me. If I break bread with you, and it's outside of like a luncheon or something and it's personal, I mean, I like you. And that's more than just being a colleague. So I have a diverse group of friends and I have a lot of respect for good-hearted people.
It's good.
And I don't care what color you are or gender.
It's good. Hey, I want to go to this. You guys know I like LeBron James. That's my homie. Trey, I'm gonna throw this one at you and then I'll get you guys others, but I don't know if you guys saw this. He tweeted out a tweet shortly after the George Floyd death, and it was a picture of a cop kneeling, Officer Chauvin kneeling on the back of his neck, and then he right next to a picture of Cap Colin Kaepernick kneeling, and he just says, "This is why." Cap taking a knee for the anthem. It was very controversial. I know if you guys even served in the military. Trey, you're a young guy. Let's talk on that. I mean, I heard somebody else say, is it time for us to admit we were wrong about Cap? And I know many white people that were offended. We had conversations about this very thing. I posted a video right after he did it, like immediately saying, dude, I just think he's in for it on this one. You know, I understood where he's coming from, and all of us had conversations, but let's talk on that. I mean, you know, LeBron James saying this is why. Trey, as a young person, what do you think?
For me, the way I feel like that Cap taking knee was just like grossly misinterpreted up until now. Like people just didn't understand, and not only did they not want to understand, but they weren't open to the notion that he was doing it other than a reason to disrespect like the forces and just disrespect American flag in America in the first place, when in all reality his intentions were beyond that. I feel like that is something that we see now, and I feel like that's like the not necessarily a problem, but I feel like that's where the disconnect is, and that's why that it is. People are starting to realize now, wait, there was more to it than just him not wanting to sing the national anthem, or for him to say, or and honestly, because it was silent and it was a silent protest, and that was just it. There is so much room for misinterpretation. There is so much room for people to think that, wow, he's wrong, or wow, I kind of agree with him on that, without kind of knowing exactly what it was and what it was about. And I mean, that's on me, and I feel like that's on everyone that did just kind of assume what the protest was before they knew why to the full extent.
Anybody else?
From what I heard, and if I heard it right, he talked to a veteran, and the veteran explained to him that sitting was disrespectful while the national anthem was being played. So at least going out with his team and kneeling in a silent protest would be better than sitting back on the bench. And, you know, no one ever asked him. They just assumed they knew,
Yeah.
and that he was being disrespectful. And guess what? We served so that people can do that. We served so that if you don't like something and you want people to know you don't like something, we protect the right that you can do that. That's why we served. And it's just, after that and what we see happening now, people have got to pause now, right? When Black people are no longer calling wolf that people thought we were. People thought we were calling wolf. And now look at this. It's, you know, Ralph, you can probably open a window and hear it down the street, what's going on, because we're not calling wolf anymore. This is real, and it's happening, and it's just, it breaks my heart that this is how it had to happen. And I said happen, it's happening. It's still going on right now.
I'm gonna kind of continue on this. I'm gonna push it a little bit. A lot of our conversations and our cousins' threads and our conversations is about race and politics. And unfortunately, right now, they're kind of related. Let me give you some reasons why I say that. 90% of Black people usually vote for the Democrat. And you look at the agendas that the parties have. You look at a lot of, when you think about Republicans, you think of white people, rural people, and it's these issues that we're getting stuck on and caught up on. And I think that politicians and the media have done a good job of putting in our face, whose side are you on? Are you for killing babies, or are you for women choosing? Are you for guns, the freedom to have guns, or are you for not killing kids in school? Are you for pro-military, or are you for, people desecrating the flag and stuff? And so we have Americans, because we have not thought some of these things through and had discussions with people, we then have allowed the politicians and the media to give us a binary choice: red or blue, Republican or Democrat. And this isn't just black people or white people. This is like all of us, Latinos or whatever, whatnot. You look at some of the things that's happening right now. Like, how can we take that back? How can we stand up for what we believe? Because I don't think it's just, it trips me out. And I've said this to y'all before. How can we be so divided on issues? How can the Republican Party, the Democratic Party be so divided? And then we are given, which one are you? Choose, which one do you want to go with? And we hear stuff like, I'm going to go with the lesser of two evils. Well, let's talk to that. What should let's first talk to, what should our people be doing? Black people. I mean, how do we look at this? And then what do you say to all of America? I mean, anybody want to tackle that?
Yeah, for me, I think black people need to get a stronger voting block. Meaning, if you're voting as a group for whichever party you're voting for, you have to get something for your vote. You just don't vote just because, hey, I'm gonna vote Democrat just because my mama voted Democrat, my daddy voted Democrat, he voted Republican, I'm gonna vote Republican. We gotta start asking for stuff for our vote. Other groups ask for certain tangibles from the government and they get it. Obama gave a bunch of rights to people who didn't have them because that's what their voter bloc asked for. They specifically said, this is what we want. If you want our vote, you're gonna have to give us this. And if we don't do that, then that's on us. If we're just content with just voting just because, it's who I've always voted for, then you can't complain. That's the way I look at it.
For me, first off with the voting, I was never taught as far as what party or what to vote for. When you're coming up, each generation is different. And in my generation, it really was no set description or guidance on what to vote for or what's going on. It's all kind of like what Ralph said. It's like, oh, your parents like this president, or you hear people talk about this president, or you're Democratic or you're Republic. But it needs to be a foundation on what to vote for. What can this guy do for me, pretty much? Because if we're electing somebody in office and I'm voting for this guy because he's Democratic, but he's trying to pass something that's going to affect me and my family or ones that I care about, I should be able to vote against that. I should know what's going on. So I had to do a lot of self-educating and about the people that's getting off, as far as like the commissioner, as far as president, as far as everything. I had to take it upon myself and self-educate myself, because quite frankly, that voting wasn't even on my mind. Even though it was something that was fought for with our ancestors, voting wasn't on my mind coming up as a young man. It was not on my mind. And I had to self-educate myself on what and how to vote, first and foremost. So that's another big thing. And also with the Democratic and the Republican Party, I mean, it's always like Alex was saying, you have 4 guns for shooting, kids in school, 4 babies, not for babies. There's always a side to choose, but at what point are we gonna take the best of both sides and come together as a unit? Because it's always this national struggle against each other, in which we're supposed to be the most powerful nation in the world. We're supposed to be America. You know what I'm saying? Everybody paint this picture of America. America is the home of the brave, the land of the free. We're supposed to be that nation that surges everybody else into the next generation. But we can't get our own apples together. You know what I'm saying? We're powerhouse. We're divided. We're divided amongst our own selves. And as being divided amongst our own selves, sometimes some people might say, hey, it's a puppet deal going on, because the powers that be over America, we all know that money rules, and the wealthiest people are the most powerful people in our nation. So there's some areas where you could say, hey, well, there's some things, chess being played, I got a hand in this, I got a hand in that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that for this to happen. But at the end of the day, we all need to be on the same page. We're not on the same page.
It's good. Anybody else on that?
And for myself, there was a lot of good stuff said by both Josh and Ralph as far as plugging yourself in, understanding the platform that whether you're a Democrat or Republican or liberal, whatever it may be, understanding the platform of that particular party, and then listening to that candidate and understanding what he or she is saying and what can they do for you. Because like you used examples, Alex, when you were talking about abortion, whether you are for or against, or the right to bear arms, whether you are for or against. And we have these parties that one is on the left and the other is on the right, and that's generally how we're choosing. But I don't think there's definitely not a perfect party where everything that their platform is speaking to any one voter agrees with. You have to almost pick and choose. Did I get 60% of what I wanted to the left versus 40% of what I wanted to the right? And I can tell you myself, I voted across the aisle along the entire time that I've been a voter. So it's not been one way or 100% one way or 100% the other way. I vote the way that I feel that whoever is going to do the most for our nation to be a nation that's going to walk into the future and survive all of the things that we have to face as a country and as a world. And then you start to think about your circle and what you're responsible for as a person, as a man, as a husband, wife, whatever your family or household looks like. And how is that person, to what Ralph said, is going to benefit you, and they've deserved and earned your vote. So it's a lot there, just what Josh said. A lot of young Black voters don't really understand that's not a natural dinner conversation within most homes, and you have to do some self-education, and it really just get involved. Not even if you want to be an elected official one day as Trey, aspires to be, but just get involved, be around the conversation so that you can better understand it. And an important piece is understanding economic development, in not only just of the country, but of your local community is extremely important. And that's going to drive a lot of your decision making as well.
One of the reasons why I even wanted to bring this up, because I want people to know this, man, we have some seriously deep and sometimes heated, but conversations. We disagree. I mean, everybody here, I'm looking around, there's probably 4 different opinions on stuff. And, but I love it because it's civil. I mean, the last time Guy and I saw each other a couple weeks ago, we had a disagreement, and Ralph and I, there's been some times where we've gone off heat. It's like, man, you annoyed the snot out of me, but I love you, my cousin. And I love it that I wish that everyone could have what we have, because I feel like we're sharpening each other, we're educating each other, we're challenging each other. And at the end of the day, we're looking at our values, our morals, our beliefs, and that's what's guiding our vote. And I just think it's the other way around a lot of times, where people are waiting for these political leaders and the media to give us what they think we should have in order to inform that. And that's not the way it should be. And I want to bring this up, kind of, did anybody have anything else they want to throw in that? I don't want to move on too fast.
Yeah, one
Alex, real
thing.
quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ralph. Go ahead.
No, I'll go after you, guys. Go ahead.
Okay, Alex, I want to ask you something. Since our last conversation, okay, you know what we talked about. I'm not going to get into all that. Have you sat down and wavered even a little bit after this last week?
No, and and I think I need to explain. Let me give you this. Let me tell everybody this. And I mean, just in full disclosure, my family gives me so much grief because I'm pro-Trump. I think that he's doing because it's the issues for me. Anybody that
No, finish your sentence. No, finish your sentence.
My
You think
family-
he's doing what?
I said I'm pro-Trump. So
Yeah, and then finish.
He
your
wanted
sentence.
you to
think he's
finish
doing
the other
what?
part.
Finish what you were saying. You think he's doing what?
You finished the other part.
Finish your sentence, Alex.
getting ready to.
Go
The
ahead.
bottom line is this. The bottom line is this. The issues for me are pro-life. The issues for me are sanctity of marriage. The issue for me is fairness and a strong military. So my point is this, and this whole panel here loves to give me this. I feel like we're being thrown. He's a racist. He's a racist. He's a racist. So don't vote. Don't vote. He's a racist. I watched Trump, and all of us did. When my mom, and she was hiding my secular music back in the 90s when everybody from Tupac to Puff Daddy was talking about how he was big ballin'. He wasn't a racist then. And then all of a sudden, we're supposed to be told he's a racist. Now, Trump is very insensitive. Sometimes he's very inflammatory. But I just don't like it that I'm being told all the time that he's a racist. And when I try to look outside of that narrative, I'm being challenged for that stuff. Now, do I like everything he said? And I told you guys this. I'm going to go this. I think you asked me this because a tweet that he posted this week. And he said this, and I wrote this thing down. He said, "I can't stand back and watch this happen to a great American city, Minneapolis, a lack of leadership. Either the very weak, radical left mayor, Jacob Fry, get his act together and bring the city under control, or I'll send in the National Guard and get the job done. These thugs are dishonoring the memory of George Floyd, and I won't let that happen. Just spoke to Governor Tim Walz and told him that the military was with him all the way. Any difficulty, and we assume control. But when the looting starts, the shooting starts." Now, I'm going to ask you guys all, let's just be real. What color is a thug?
That's a replacement word for Negro.
Yeah. What color?
Yeah.
Let me ask
That's
you
a
this.
replacement word for Negro.
What color is trailer park trash?
Of course, that's a white person.
So I think that I don't like that he did that, because knowing where we are in our country and knowing that I agree with that. I mean, when you talk about a thug, I've shared this with all of you guys in St. Louis, when you would see the traffic light cameras, and when they would, if you get 3 of those, you can't get your license renewed. You can't get your tags renewed. And then all of a sudden you got a young black kid who's driving around with a suspended license. He's got some, couple, joints on him, which is the same as the white kids have out in South County or in West County. Now all of a sudden the news narrative is young thug, driving. That's just a word for black kid. I get that. I think that Trump is very insensitive, but I'm going to say this. You guys know me. I say this all the time. Both sides have failed us. Both sides have failed me on the issues. Both sides have let me down on the issues. I don't like it when I see things like this is where politics intersects. And these are conversations that I have with my cousins, my son. I don't like it when in the previous administration, more black people were placed on food stamps and basically double. I don't like that. When I was working at the St. Louis Dream Center and I saw these black people get trapped in the system of entitlements and they don't have a pathway to success, because if you make too much money, then you won't be able to get your government assistance. I think the policies that were enacted to help our people had unintended consequences. And so therefore I'm pushing back against that. And then I don't like it when you try to keep me there and in line by calling me a sellout if I don't agree that Trump or a certain candidate's racist. I've heard it, and I'm gonna stop at this one. When I started engaging in voting, I heard the Democrats tell me that George Bush was a racist. Kanye told me that. I believed him. After Katrina, George Bush is racist. And then when Mitt Romney came and was running for president, he's a racist too, because he made a comment about how 73% of all black babies are born out of wedlock. That's offensive. Until I looked it up and found out that's true. And then they told me that John McCain's a racist, although this guy's a war hero. And then they tell me Trump's a racist, which I thought we liked him back in the 90s and so on and so forth. So that's why I think that's just a narrative that they're trying to use to control me, and I don't like that.
Why are you getting all your political views from rappers? That's what I want to know.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Hey,
Answer that one. Please answer that one.
Considering
That's
that you
that's a
couldn't
good
even
one.
listen to rap because I got half of your music from when we were kids.
That's a good
You
one.
did. You did.
Because
That's
you
true.
had to give it up. But Alex, I asked you one question and you went on this tangent and didn't answer.
Hold up. Let him answer that one. Why are you taking the word of a Tupac and a Puffy and these guys as to say he's not a racist?
Come on now. So first of all, Guy, I did answer your question. You said, did my views change? I said no. Because for me, I look at what are you trying to lead me to? You're trying to
No,
get me.
I'm asking
to a
you,
binary
Alex.
question.
Alex,
Is he a
after the
racist?
last week. Okay, because the tweet that he put out is from the 60s of a well-known racist that wanted to shoot black people. And Trump, oh, I didn't know where that quote came from. You think he's that silly that he doesn't know the inflammatory nature of that quote that he put out 40 years after a known racist said it?
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
That guy was probably at his house at some time when he was a kid.
Wait, let me ask this. Who else knew that? Because I didn't even know that. That's the first time I've even heard that.
When they
that-
loot, they shoot is a known racist statement for looters 40 years ago.
I didn't know that. Ralph, did you know that?
No,
Because nobody rapped it,
Most
that's
militant
why.
brother that I know.
Nobody
Cedric,
put it
you're
in
the
a
most
rap song, so
educated.
you didn't know.
Cedric, you're the most educated. Did you know that?
No, and I never claimed to know everything.
I don't-
But one of the things that I wanted to comment on, too, to get to Guy's point is, it's Alex. You talked about the three things that mean the most to you when you're looking at a candidate. That when you say, "Hey, I'm pro-Trump. He's doing a great job," you spoke to those three things. And it goes back to what I was saying. We generally look for things that are important to us when we choose to stand behind a particular party or a person or whatever. But what people are looking for right now isn't really about party or anything. He's the president of these United States. A black person, and it could have been anyone. Let's just say that it wasn't a black person. If it would have been a Latino, if it would have been an Asian or someone else that had died in this same manner, what we see in it, it's not even about him being racist or anything else. For me, it's about the lack of leadership. If you're going to choose to be the president of the United States, one of the most difficult jobs, I'm going to say probably, on the face of this earth, because you're standing before everyone and you're not saying, Alex, I just like you because you're a Republican. I'm not going to worry about these people over here. He's not standing up, and he has not done that for the last 4 years when we really needed him to stand up and just say maybe two things. Number one, that was appalling what we saw. So I'm going to lead the conversation to get this right. And number two, we probably need to look at the way that we police in the United States, and we need to come together to do something about it. I've seen where he's had several opportunities to say something and he chooses not to say anything. But like for you going back to say, well, hey, I'm really not worried about that because the three things that I just stated that are important to me, he's doing well there.
Yeah, but that's not all the case, though, Sid.
But no, I'm just saying that, not saying that that's your platform to say that you're okay with it, but that's what most people are looking for right now. They're looking for a leader that doesn't duck the hard, challenging times where they have to stand up and probably say something that their core base is going to dislike because they're the leader of the United States of America. They're the leader for everyone. This is a melting pot. It's not black, it's not white, it's not Latino, it's a melting pot. It's always been that way. And to be the president, regardless of party affiliation, you are the president, and there are going to be times, and you should tell your base, there are going to be times that I'm going to have to step up and say stuff that you probably don't like because, you know what, I need to do an honest job. And you being a pastor, know that, thinking about it from a Christian standpoint, where you need to be that person for everyone. And that's where I think that many people have heartburn with him because I'm still waiting for, well, no, I'm not waiting for it because he hasn't done it in previous opportunities. But that's where we're disappointed because he's almost, and we have to make this up because that's all we've seen, like he's ducking some of those hard challenges. And that's what a leader does. You can't stand and run from those hard times. You have to stand up and be that person.
Now, let me just say this, though. I want to say this before I go back into that. See, I think both sides are to blame for where we're at. But guys, before Trump even came on the scene, and you go back 20, 30 years, we've been given this binary choice between Republican, Democrat. You either got to like everything one party does or not like it. And you go back to, so for example, I think that we definitely need criminal justice reform. I mean, and traditionally, that's the Democrats going. I mean, there's been too many Black people that have been locked up that have, for crimes and so on and so forth. I like that the Democrat Party is for the disenfranchised. Angie and I, when we were pastoring in Florida, we walked with people through the immigration system, and we need more people. We need reform in that. I mean, we've actually helped people try to get into this country. The laws need to be changed. I'm not for a lot of that stuff. I'm not a gun user. I mean, a lot of you guys have guns. I don't have one. I'm not against people having guns, but I don't like these big old semi-automatic weapons, whatever you call them. I probably stand more with the Democratic Party on that, in those situations. But here's where my point is. I can look at both sides and see things that I'm with you here, I'm not with you there. I'm with you here, I'm not with you there. And I saw something that Obama did. Obama gave a great statement about what he thinks. He said he wrote some words of healings and stuff like that. I love that about Obama. I love that he's a great orator. I was proud that we had a Black man that my sons and my kids can look to and say, hey, I can esteem to the highest office in the land. But here's where my issue is. And I want to address what you said. Cedric, Trump did give out a statement. And he did make a statement for the family. But here's what happens, though. You know this, and I'm going to talk to my people. We're not happy because we know he's a racist, and no matter what he says, we don't like. And then that narrative is being fueled. And instead, we as people should be holding both sides to the flames because there are legitimate issues. And we're being stoked with everything's racist, and we're not even getting our issues addressed. We should not have more and more Black people on food stamps than we ever have. Did you know, you go back to the 40s and the 50s, the Black bastard rate was less than it was for white people. And now 73% of our babies are being born out of wedlock. And here's why. Because you go back to the Great Society, programs of the 60s when LBJ was trying to help our people by offering us, food stamps, reform for people that really needed them, Social Security reforms and different things, student loans, government assistance, and all these different things. And the unintended consequences, and some people would say they were intended to get us in entitlements, it trapped us. It's in the system. And all of us have cousins. All of us have friends that are Black that are stuck in the system, and we're staying there. And I just don't like that they're expected to be there because as a voting block, Black people 90% vote Democrat. And so we're forgetting those issues, and we're not helping those people get out of the bad situations they're in because we're told over and over and over that Trump is obviously a racist, even though he wasn't until he started running for president as a Republican, which they said that about the last 3 Republican presidents. That just picks me off. I'm not buying that stuff.
Wait a minute. First of all, let me say this. It's 1973. The Department of Justice filed a racial discrimination suit against Trump.
It was against the Trump organization, his father.
No, it was against him.
It's
Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Hold up. 1973.
And
in 1989, five young men were accused of rape in Central Park. He took out a full-page ad blasting those dudes out. They need to be sentenced to death, all this other inflammatory stuff that he said. When they were found to be innocent, he didn't retract this statement. That is why people call him a racist. Not just because he passed a bad policy, it's because of the history of what this man has done.
That's not
But
true.
if you
Here's when we started
did not, if you did not, if you
I'm gonna tell you when we started
man,
calling
I'll
the
let you talk. I was quiet while you made your summation. I was quiet while you made your summation. But now I'm giving you the evidence that the United States government filed charges up against this man for racial discrimination. If you're racially discriminating, then that would imply that you are a racist. And if you settle out, you're assuming guilt. You never settle and don't assume any guilt unless you plead no contest, which it doesn't look like he pled no contest and said, hey, look, I can't defend myself right or left. I'm not saying I'm guilty or innocent. He pled out. He said, all right, I'm going to settle. Just like when Michael Jackson settled and said that, hey, I'm not saying that I've touched the kid, or if I touched him, I'm just going to settle out with the family and make this go away. But everybody implies that this man is a pedophile, but he never was guilty. OJ got off. The jury said he's not guilty, but still to this day, we say OJ is a murderer. Everybody says this. Trump, the Central Park Five, the discriminated housing practices in New York, everything he said up until the time he was elected. He did a rally, said there was a black guy in the crowd that was causing a disruption. If this was X amount of years ago, he would have, I think something to the effect of he would have been taken out of here on a stretcher. He does a lot of implying, he has a lot of implied inflammatory speech, which would speak that he is racially biased. But for you to say he's not, because there's no proof, Tupac hung out with him, so that must mean he's not a racist. Man, I don't follow Tupac and what Tupac said. I mean, Tupac isn't my role model that, hey man, if Tupac said, it must be right. If George Foreman said, it must be right. George Foreman and Tupac are in two different, they're like Cedric said, one black person doesn't speak for all black people. Tupac don't speak for the young black people, nor does George Foreman speak for the older black people. I'm going by the man's record. And up until the time he ran for president, dude was a star. He was a Democrat. He rolled with the Clintons. Matter of fact, he funded the Jesse Jackson run for president. Trump donated to that. But does that mean he's not a racist? Why did he do it? I don't know. But I'm going on his record and what he's done.
So now let me just say a lot. But here's the thing though. And here's why I say I disagree with you, because number one, and we've had this conversation. I love that people are seeing this because we've had this conversation before, so we know where we're going on this. First of all, it was his father that was running the organization. Second of all, he did say that about the Central Park Five. He thought they were
Donald Trump. Donald Trump started his career in '73. Man, it wasn't his dad. You're misinforming the people. You can't misinform the people. You can't misinform the people. It was Donald Trump.
People can look it up.
It was Trump.
But here's the point. Even up to that point, we gave him adulation. We loved on him. People, black people, all of our leaders, from Tupac to Puff Daddy to Jesse Jackson to Al Sharpton, all of our leaders that whether they're in entertainment, sports, and political audience, they asked for and received meetings with him. Here's when we didn't like Trump, and I'm gonna tell you where it's at. When he started going with the birther issue for Obama, because when he didn't let the birther issue go, and the first black president, well, if you talk about Obama, then obviously the only reason you're doing that and the whole birther argument was a racist argument. And that's when the black people, we shunned him to the left and right. And see, my point is this, and I want to say this for everybody. Can we have disagreements about, can we not disagree without it having to go to, man, that's got to be racist. The only reason he did that is because he's racist. Like I don't agree with everything Obama did. I love the fact that we had a black family and a black president, because that again shows that, hey, my kids can do anything. But I don't agree with the policies. Does that make me racist? So that's
Alex, let's change it. Let's change it from race. Let's change it from race.
But they're connected
to being decent. Let's change it. Is Trump a decent person?
I'm not going to argue his morality. We've had these conversations left and right.
Okay. So don't you think the most powerful man on the planet should be a decent person?
Yeah, I do. And I mean, the thing is, though, but here's the thing, Guy, and you
You're
don't
gonna
want
give
to
me a butt. You're gonna give me a butt.
Yeah,
for
you're
someone.
right. Because you
Decent,
have presidents
but it's
sneaking
okay.
Marilyn Monroe
Go
into
ahead.
the White House. You know, let's just be honest with this. And black people are not going to be happy. But if we start talking about
Alex, every time I say something you don't like, you wave something shiny about something happened 50 years ago. We're talking about right now. We're not talking about Marilyn Monroe being in the back door of the White House. I'm talking about, let's just use the time that Mr. Floyd was walking down the street trying to use a $20 bill and today. Has he been decent this week?
You talking about Trump?
Move a crowd so that he can go stand in front of a church and hold a Bible up that he had to borrow from somebody.
Yeah. See, but this is
crowd,
guy.
Just so he can take photos because he was mad that people were making fun of him because he went in the bunker when people were protesting outside the White House. So he told them, I'm going to show them, I'm going to walk outside and do something I've never did before, spend hundreds of $1,000s of tax funds just so I can walk outside and take a picture. Then he didn't know what to do. He's asking people to come take a picture with him because he didn't even know what to do when he did that.
Well, last thing, I'm going to say this, stop. Because we can go left and right in defending, this or that. And we've done this before. I mean, but I was talking to this right here. And I love our civil conversations that we can have these conversations and disagree, but we have to acknowledge that race and politics go hand in hand. In my bigger picture, and I want you to talk to this, is that we're being given a narrative, and I fear that we're playing right into it. Because right now, and I say it because of this, and I'm gonna give you guys a chance, because now we are nitpicking everything this man does when, I'm gonna give you this, when if we did this with people like Martin Luther King, we would have never had a civil rights movement, because a man who was a pastor, and you read Tavis Smiley.
You don't think they nitpick Martin Luther King?
We come out with stuff, we're just now admitting what he did, but we would have torn him down before he even had a chance to do his stuff. I just think that Trump is held to a different standard. Because
so you're saying it's not enough for Martin Luther King to be murdered?
You don't think they tore down Martin Luther King? That's what J. Edgar Hoover's playbook was, character assassination. That's where you get this playbook from, J. Edgar Hoover. They went in, Martin Luther King was supposedly having an affair. They would call the man's house, making death threats. J. Edgar Hoover always tried to, huh?
Do you think that he was?
Was he what?
That Martin Luther King was having affairs?
I don't care.
He didn't pay anybody.
Man, we all got our vices.
He didn't pay him to go
honestly,
away.
And see, that to me, that's where people get confused.
Well,
they want their heroes. People want their heroes. People want their heroes to be as clean as a preacher's sheets. It ain't like that. We're humans. That's why I say that fair thing and wanting things to be 100%. You don't like Trump, but he's a racist, but you're gonna try to justify that he's not because you like him. Hey man, if that's what he is, that's what he is. I still rock with him because he doesn't support abortion. I wouldn't care if he was a racist or not. I just like him because he doesn't support abortion. And if that's what it is, and that's what it is. But to say he's not something because you follow him, trying to make him what he's not, I mean that to me that's counterproductive. I would never say.
I mean, you are, and there's a lot of people that see that. I mean, because my bigger picture, and you guys are missing this because you're getting caught in the minutia. You're presuming this based on what you are, the way you are perceiving what he has done or has not done, because he went down and took a photo op, at a time. Then you're saying, well, that's obviously racist because.
No, I listen to what he says. I hear what he says. Prime example, the riots at Charlottesville. The riots at Charlottesville. What did he say about the rioters out there? He said they're good people on both sides. Like he didn't say, hey man, y'all go down there starting trouble. We gonna bring out the guns and we gonna start shooting. And those boys were actually shooting into the crowd. I ain't seen that. I mean, maybe it has been. I haven't been down to any of these protests or anything. I know people are looting, but I haven't seen one tape where there was a gunfight between the protesters and law enforcement or protesters and counter protesters. I haven't seen that, but I saw that in Charlottesville, but there are decent people on both sides. This dude is doing little dog whistle things that would lead me to believe that he has a prejudice for one side and he's trying to spark up his base. Yeah, he says he has different things that he says. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to deny that. But I'm not going to say, hey man, man, I don't see that happens. You know, he didn't say that. He didn't say it like that. Yeah, he said it.
Yeah, Ralph.
Hey, if you start the looting, we start the shooting. He didn't say, hey, man, if y'all go down with them tiki torches and y'all go down there antagonizing those people, hey, man, we gonna bring out the National Guard. And if the mayor of Charlottesville can't get that under control, I'm gonna send in the military. He didn't do that with those guys.
Hey,
what was the difference between the two? What was the difference between the two protests or the two? Yeah, both of them were protests. What was the difference? One of them was a group of white dudes, and the other one was a group of black kids.
So wait, what you said is fair. That and you kept on going there because you made me miss it. The way you perceive it is such, and I think that's okay. I think that's fair. And obviously, there's a lot of people that perceive it your way. My whole point again is this: we, as a black voting bloc and as a group of people, we just can't all just believe just because we see it, because they're painting a picture, they're painting a narrative. And, I'm going to give Ced, let's have you have a chance. And then Trey, I want you to have a chance to weigh in on this. But I just don't like the narrative that they're trying to paint, which is what I believe.
Who is the they that you speak of?
I said it was.
Who is the they?
I think the media does that. I absolutely think the media does that. And I watch CNN, I watch Fox, and the truth is somewhere in between because I want to get a real, honest picture. So that's what I believe, the media. But Ced, you go ahead and weigh in.
Oh, well, one of the things I wanted to go back, and you mentioned that when I stated that President Trump has not come out and said anything to address what's going on, you stated that he has.
Yeah.
See, and this is where you've never heard me say that he's prejudiced.
True.
I just don't agree with his leadership. I don't know the guy. I've seen what he's done, and I don't agree with it. I think that he speaks to his base, which isn't 100% white, isn't 100% black, or 100% anything. I think that he speaks to his base, and that's where he stays. Therefore, all of us see different things and say, well, you're not speaking to me. Because to your point, on both syndicates, whether it's Fox or CNN or any other news channel, there's been countless individuals across all political parties, all ages. This gentleman has not come out and said anything that's truly appropriate to bring some type of level of security that he's going to lead us through this and that he really cares about and for it. And that's where we are right now. So that's the point that I'm making, that's the issue. I don't care about, trying to prove that somebody's prejudiced or not, because we can argue on that all day. But to the point that he has not come out and did something as basic to acknowledge the seriousness of this, you're gonna have to show and prove to me that he has. See, because you actually like and you're for, so maybe what he says, it was sufficient for you.
Yeah, you're right. But here's the point too, though. Hey, and I guarantee, as we're having this discussion right now, people are putting in the comments when he said it. But I remember a few days ago, he said that Floyd's death was a grave tragedy. He cried the violence, whatever, whatnot. So, but here's my point. Our biases play a part. Just like, for example, we view white people as being biased and looking at us with a black skin. And that's true. Guys, what do you think that white people are looking at and saying, how come black people vote 90%, Democrat all the time? And they look at us and say, but because we look at some of the same views. And I so for example, I always say these are connected, race and politics, like abortion. Black people overwhelmingly are not for abortion. Killing babies, I mean, Black people overwhelmingly are not. So then you look at white people saying, but how come then left and right, hook, line, and sinker, you guys will overlook murdering babies because you're told that so-and-so and so-and-so is racist? I mean,
Yeah, but going back to what you said, and then I'll step away so that others can talk, because I know you want to get to Trey. But you breeze through a lot of that stuff, and I don't, as far as what everyone else is stating and what other people can come out and say, well, yeah, he did acknowledge it. Okay, I'm not saying that he did not say something or nothing. I'm stating that he's the president of the United States, and any CEO of a great institution, organization, you would expect for them to say more than a one-liner.
If I like them, yes, but if I don't,
no.
That's where
It doesn't have any, see, for me,
disagree.
it doesn't have anything to do with like or dislike.
I disagree. Because
And I know you're
like
going
them,
to disagree, and I get that.
But if
And
we
you-
like
you're
them, we're
gonna
okay
disagree.
with what they give us. But if we don't, then I don't care what you say. I didn't like it.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. What I'm saying here, and I think that if you listen through it all, it has nothing to do with like or dislike. There's two things that happen in this. Number one, a person got killed in a way that was heinous. Number two, the person was a policeman that did it, that's supposed to protect and serve. There have been many occasions where law enforcement officers have been found guilty of doing things that were not appropriate. So should we not address one, racism? And I said this, and many of you can remember that when Obama, at the end of his presidency, that there were things that took place then, and he needed to address it. So it doesn't matter whether the person is black, white, Democrat, or Republican. If you don't say the right thing, I'm going to call you out, because you are the leader, you're the CEO, so you should speak for that body of individuals. And then if you don't address the entire problem, which you should do, then you're at fault. So I hold any leader to that particular caliber. So it's not about Donald Trump and whether he's racist or whatever, but you should, if you're going to say that I'm not quoting him, I'm paraphrasing along this line, that I'm kind of like the chief authority of law enforcement and right or wrong, and he's going to be able to send out all of these, paramilitary type organizations to get all of this, disarray back in the order, and the looters and all of the people that are rioting. Then why not come and say there's an issue, at least address the whole thing, not just a piece of it. And that's what I'm saying.
I hear you.
See it.
I'll say this, and I hear you. And again, I don't know the facts. I've been crazy, but I do believe, and somebody can fact check this, that Trump came out and made a statement about the family and said, "Hey, I'm calling for the Justice Department to pursue this and to look at it quickly." I thought I heard him say that, but I could be wrong. But let's move this on, though. So
yeah, I think I have something to add to that. Just kind of not to necessarily counter what said, but when you're saying that Trump hasn't even put out a statement or anything about that, whether he has or not, I feel like that's not the point. He hasn't really moved on any action on that. Like you mentioned before about placing any changes or any reform in the justice system in America today. But I just kind of want to go back to what you're just point to me. What's the difference between what Obama did and released after the Michael Brown incident in 2015 and how that's different from how Trump's handling it right now? And I'm not saying that he has done it differently or has not, or how they handle it in regards to the how that was different. But I'm saying as a leader, I feel like they should. I'm saying they should, and I'm saying that's a problem because I don't remember. I mean, I was younger at the time, and I don't remember Obama saying anything and addressing it in a way that was saying, we stand with you, we stand with that community, or anything of that nature, trying to blatantly going against the officers or whatever it may not have been or anything like that. I don't remember him taking his side, and that has a lot to do with just the politics of it. Is our leaders they're still politicians, and they are afraid, not necessarily afraid, but they do have to accommodate to their party, to people that are in their voting block, their constituents, how they're going to vote for them. And they not necessarily afraid to step on toes, but there are things that they have to watch out for in that. And I feel like that's the problem in of itself. But not only just the words though, is I don't like there's no change from when Obama was our leader. He didn't enact any of these systems, because we're right back here 4 years later after the after the Michael Brown incident, which even, what was it, 4 years before that, the Trayvon Martin incident, which I feel is the thing that started it all, was a catalyst at least. And there wasn't any change in criminal justice reform since that. And that was 2 incidents during Obama's turn in his tenure in office. And now we still are here, and now it's Trump's kind of turn in time to deal with it, and he's left with the same problem that wasn't solved in the beginning though.
Well, but that's what I'm saying, Trey, is to the point of stating that there's a racial issue that we as a nation need to address.
Definitely.
There's been, and to your point, even at the end of Obama's, because that was at the end of his second term. So truthfully, he could have said what he wanted to, because he couldn't be president anytime again anyway.
Exactly.
So to me, and I said that to myself, he could have pretty much said what he wanted to, because he didn't have to worry about votes after that. But it goes back to that point too, that it keeps happening within the same area, that same segment, which is law enforcement. So to you, and what you stated, which I agree with, there needs to be a larger conversation had by the leader.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for the leader to stand up and take that. And I understand, because even to the point when you were saying you have to weigh and think about those that are supporting you and not step on toes, I get that. Mm-hmm. And we all have to do that, even if we own a little shop somewhere. We can't say too much, because we're going to face issue and criticism if we do. But there are times that we should, and this is the point that I'm making, that you should be bold.
Uh-huh.
And at least say, because I don't care whether you're on the left or the right side, I think that most people, if you're human, you can say that what happened was wrong.
Yeah.
You can also say that this is not the first or the 10th time. So you can probably agree, do we need to do something about it? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You can dislike me, you can be prejudiced, you could be this, you could be that. That's why I'm not even trying to bring all of those things into bear. What I'm saying is that we need to address this, and we need a leader to get out in front. And my expectations, regardless of party, regardless of gender, and not just him, it's to the point that you need to get out and you need to say something and be able to feel comfortable. You know what? I'm going to get a phone call in the middle of the night from somebody that didn't like what I said. But you know what? I said what needed to be said, because I'm the president of all people.
For sure.
Hey, let's get Josh.
Well,
Josh, I'm going to give you a chance to speak on this, or whatever you have to say.
Just a lot, man. It's just a lot. I really didn't know what Obama responded about it. Honestly, I really didn't hear what Trump said about what was going on about George Floyd. But I have not seen him step up and say anything, because, and even to the point where you said where it matters whether you like or dislike your CEO, or you like or dislike your boss, or you like or dislike the president. Regardless of whether you like a person or not, there still needs to be something said. There still needs to be something that needs to be done. I mean, he is the president. This is pretty much the toughest job in the world. There has to be some type of presence being felt, whether he needs to stand up and say XYZ, or he needs to stand up and say, ABC. But it has to be something said, and also has to be something done with law enforcement, because that's a big issue there. Many people don't like stuff they don't like to be told what to do, especially when they become adults. And I know police officers, and that's a tough job. To be a police officer in today's society is a tough job, whether you're white, black, Mexican, Asian, whatever color you are. Being a police officer is a tough job. For you to tell that person that they should not be doing that is a tough job. It's going to be a rebuttal regardless of what it is, it's going to be a rebuttal. But it has to be, I'm not going to say it has to be a compromise, but it just has to be a better way, because it has to, man. It has to, because it's always keeping us divided.
I agree.
It is.
Hey, I'm going to say this, and man, we've gone well over the time that I wanted to. I want to wrap this up, and I'll give you guys all a chance to say some stuff. Here's my big takeaways. We, as cousins and family, we disagree, and I love that we can have intellectual. What are you gonna say, sucker? Are you going to?
Oh yeah. Do we really disagree?
Well, you guys all jumped on me. That's what I'm gonna say. But here's my point, though. I love the fact that we have been doing this for about 4 or 5 years. You guys challenge me. You encourage me to see things differently. And at the end of the day, we all know that we're family. We're all Americans. We all want what's best. We can agree to disagree, and we do it civilly. I hope that people get that from this conversation. And then here's another thing. I just want people to have people around them that challenge them to see things from different perspectives. I love that people got to see a real discussion. I mean, because that's, we have some of those, and I mean, in person, through text, on phone calls, FaceTime, and that's okay, and we'll see it differently. But we all have to be looking at how we can go forward and be better. And this is one of those conversations we were all taught. You never talk about race. You never talk about politics. I just think that's, or excuse me, politics or religion. I think that's a mistake, because I'm trying to teach my son the values that we hold important. I want him to know why we believe what we believe, and then to stop and think for himself. And I know that we're trying to teach our young cousins, our family members, the same thing. And so, that's kind of my takeaway. I'll leave it to you guys. Any last little takeaways from this? Anybody want to say anything?
Well, on my end, I wanted to say that I'm really happy to see Trey join us this evening, because this is his first time where we've heard him have an opportunity to weigh in. He's been on the thread, but has yet to really weigh in. So it was great to hear his perspective, and then to be able to sharpen the blade on both ends, because I think when it comes to being a leader, and this is the point that I'm trying to make, is that when you pick up that sword or that knife, there's generally no handle. So you're going to get cut either way, because if you're trying to say, well, okay, I'm going to only speak to this group, and I'm scared to speak to that group because they really don't support me, so I'm not really worried about their votes or them calling me in the middle of the night, because to Alex's point, well, they don't like me anyway, so it really doesn't matter. Sometimes it's a double-edged sword, and you're going to pick it up and you're going to get nicked. But a leader should know that. He or she should be aware of that, and they should just bring a lot of bandages and wrap with them to be able to, just go ahead and wrap their hands up and keep it moving. And that's all I'm saying. It really isn't about color, race, gender, sex, creed, or even whether someone is prejudiced or not. It's about getting in front of a large issue that we've seen time and time and again. Even Trey going back to say that we're using other presidencies to be able to see some of those examples, and we've yet to deal with it. Mm-hmm. I would like to see somebody step out and deal with it, help us to see our way through. And gentlemen, thank you. This has been great. So my pleasure.
Anybody else?
Trey and Josh, man, I just want to tell y'all this, man. Never be afraid to be questioned about what you believe. If you believe in something, you should invite people to challenge you on it, and that will make you stronger and sharper when you have to defend or to prove your point. Somebody asking you to or challenging you to prove your point, don't take that as offense or aggression. Stand your ground. If you believe it, go out, do the research. That's one thing a lot of kids don't do these days, is do research. Me and Cedric was talking about this the other day, that back in our time, a long time ago, we used to have the encyclopedia salesman come to the house, and you get the one free one, and then you had to buy the rest of them. And one thing that my mother and Kay Francis, I'm not sure about Barbara, but we always had a full set of encyclopedias at the house, and we would have to go in and crack open the book to fact check or find out. Nowadays, you guys have it easier where you could pick up your iPhone, tell it what you wanted to know, and an answer will come back. So with that being said, man, if the information is that readily available for you, don't be afraid to look at whether it be your religious beliefs, whether it be your political beliefs, look at what the other side is talking about, because that's going to make your argument stronger, or that will be your counterpoint. And you won't, and I think a lot of arguments or a lot of discord between people when they're talking about different ideologies or different opinions, people get upset because they don't have the answer to the question that was asked of them, and they get frustrated. And when you get frustrated, it turns to angst, and then angst turns to anger, and then after anger, you want to throw your hands up or pull out your pistols, and you got to fight it out because you weren't able to understand the question and somebody challenged you. But if you know where the other side is going prior to them going there, you have a better foothold and you have more tools in your toolbox to be able to counteract whatever it is they said. And that's the only thing I want to tell you. And that's why my beliefs and my understanding of things is so fluid, because I always go to the other side and understand, how is it that I can come up with that? That's why I say the thing about I deal with the police like I'm behind enemy lines. Not necessarily that I am, but I deal with them like that because, hey man, I know my rights, but hey man, I'm not gonna win this battle, so let me give him what he wants. My name is this. It's not that I'm succeeding. It's just that I'm picking my battles, man. I know where that can go. I've already played this out of my mind. You got to play. I hate the analogy, but it's a good one. You got to play chess, not checkers. And that's it.
That's good, man. That's good. Anybody else?
Thanks for having me, you guys. This is my very first one of these. You guys made me feel welcome. Even you, Alex. I would love to do this again with you guys. I'm going to make sure Alex doesn't ever duck a question again as long as I'm here.
I answered
Good
all
luck!
the questions directly, officer.
All he was missing was the red cape. He was missing the red cape for every time.
Water off a duck's back.
He can say "Olay."
Name the
every
question I
time I
didn't
ask
answer,
a question.
officer. See,
Alex, get a hard question. You do that number right there. And hold on.
you can tell this joker's a police because he's like, answer my question, I'm going to throw your rump in jail. And answer
That's
the way I
right.
wanted to be answered.
Water off a duck's back, baby.
See? And he's probably going to flash his gun to show me. Just like
Alex is like,
No,
Alex rubbed himself down with Vaseline before he got on, boy, and let the questions slip right off of him.
What is
My
this guy
plan-
talking about?
my plan is to get with Ralph, catch you slipping, put you in tiny shoes, put you in a room, actually answer the questions that are asked to you.
Rewind the tape. Rewind the tape. People are going to be fact checking
man,
now,
that's
jokers.
beautiful.
Hey,
See,
guys.
there we
Hey,
go.
He is quite buttery.
Living in the past again. Rewind the tape.
we'll see. We'll see. Hey, fellas. Hey, it's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. This has been fun. And, man, I really want people to see that you don't have to think the same. You don't have to believe the same. But we're all humans. We can sharpen each other. We can encourage each other. We can inspire each other. We challenge and motivate each other. And because we are all Americans. We all want what's best, and it's for the future. And so, hey, that's all we have for the Facebook Live. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to say on behalf of my cousins, Cedric, Guy, Ralph, and Josh, and my son, Trey, thanks for watching it. Hit us with questions. Check us out. We'll always answer them. If you put them on there, we'll be watching this. So I'm going to turn off the live feed now. Stick with me, fellas.